I will ask, here is with us also Gordana Vnuk from one theatrical perspective also. Gordana, you are here. She will present also one theatrical archival project. Please, floor is yours. You can share. I just have to ask, they stop sharing.
I hope I will not have problems again. Hello. So I will talk about the project Tertulia, which was conceived and produced by a theater festival, Eurokaz, in 2009. It was made for city cemetery Mirogoj, one of the most beautiful cemeteries in Europe, really an impressive place which sums up a collective individual memory, which was, I will show you, I mean, those from Croatia are certainly familiar with the site, but I will show maybe some pictures for our foreign participants to see how what's the atmosphere. Just a second. What is the atmosphere and how the place looks like?
You are looking for here it is.
Do you see the picture?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, so just a second. You still see the picture?
Yes.
Okay. I had some technical problems last time, so I'm curious whether this will work this time. So the cemetery Mirogoj was inaugurated in 1876. The main building and an overall shape of the cemetery, its composition of arcades, pavilions, and cupolas, intertwined by rich vegetation, was designed by the Viennese architect Hermann Bolle, who left a very significant stamp in Zagreb, not only in this cemetery, but in other places as well. This cemetery is referred to as an open-air museum, Croatian pantheon, due to a vast number of notable persons buried there. And unlike older cemeteries, so this is the entrance. Unlike older cemeteries which were church-owned, this one was owned by the city, which means that people from all kinds of religious backgrounds could be buried here. So these are the photographs made by artists themselves. They show also the location of the installations, about which I will talk later. It is a pleasant and popular place for a walk and an obligatory stop for tourist tours. So we see some of the graves around which of eminent figures of Croatian history, around which there will be installations played. This is, for example, Krleža, the famous Croatian writer, and this is the first Croatian president, Franjo Tuđman, anti-fascist, the monument. Okay, so just to give you an idea about the atmosphere and the context of the project. In Europe, we must say that due to the unique sites like cemeteries, not many cultural events were taking place there. Basically, maybe some smaller concerts of classical music, or there was even a theater performance by German director Gruber in the cemetery of Weimar. But this project Tertulia was the first, and unfortunately until today, the last artistic project inside the cemetery walls in Croatia, but also I think in the whole region. It took us about 3 years to do the research, basically in the archives and museums of the city of Zagreb. And also it took us a lot of time to obtain all necessary permissions. As you can imagine, this was not an easy task. We must say that all the installations were placed in the public areas of the cemetery, so we didn't disturb the private space around the graves themselves. So we were very, I mean, Eurokaz as a theater festival is quite famous for its very radical and shocking aesthetics of the shows that we invite. But here, so people were a little bit suspicious what will happen, but we were really like, nobody complained afterwards, except some washing machines around the graveyard, around the tomb of the Croatian president. Okay, I'll talk about it later. So Eurokaz invited two Argentinian artists, Nicolas Varchausky and Eduardo Molinari, who did a similar project in Buenos Aires in their famous cemetery La Recoleta in 2005, where they placed installations around the tombs of historical figures of the Argentinian past. I will show you some pictures of this as well. Just a second. So these are the artists, Nicolas Varchausky and Eduardo Molinari. And here we can see this Argentinian cemetery, which is very unlike those we have in Europe. It is like tombs, like little houses. So they form streets and squares, and installations were placed around the graveyards of gravestones of famous historical figures. So the word, just to explain something, the word tertulia, this is the title of the project, is the Argentinian word for kind of social gatherings which were very popular in the 19th century, of the upper bourgeois class in Argentina, where they discussed art, history, politics, but at the same time drinking and dancing and eating. So this is some kind of a reenactment of such gatherings, but the gathering is taking place with our ancestors, with the deceased, with dead people, because all cultures actually wanted at some point to establish a connection to their ancestors, and this is one of the contemporary version of this. Eduardo Molinari is so basically how it came to the project, that our the member of Eurokaz team, Branko Brezovic, he went to the festival in Buenos Aires and saw this project there and asked them the artists to set up something similar in Zagreb, though the project was very different from the one that was taking place in Argentina. Eduardo Molinari is a visual artist and a photographer, and he started an ongoing artistic project in 2001, which was called Walking Archives, Archivo Caminante, where he tried to redefine big historical narratives by placing together various kinds of formats. So his work was could be visible in drawings, in films and books, and visual installations and interventions in public spaces. Also, Nicolas Varchausky was a sound designer who was a specialist in electronic and digital music. And he was also, besides composition, was known to have a lot of installations, sound installations in public places. On top of that, we engaged a lot of Croatian staff, so dramaturgs, visual and sound artists, and also performers who also took part in the project. The space of Tertulia in Zagreb comprehends the ceremonial architectonic part, the so-called great and small arcades, which are resting places of Croatian historical, political, and cultural celebrities, and the central alley, which leads from the arcades to the cemetery of fallen enemies from the World War II and surrounding hills, which we will now see the parkour. So this is where the audience entered and could move freely inside the space. Each spectator was given a plan, and each one could determine its own rhythm and what he wants to see. So this was the basically the plan, how they moved. How do I make a whole screen? One more. Do you see the whole screen or just PowerPoint?
PowerPoint.
Okay, so how do I make a whole screen? No.
As first time as you started, it was okay.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Okay, this is also okay. Just keep going.
Yeah. So how this all? Along this way, there are these installations, visual and sound installations placed along these alleys where the spectators moved. Molinari called these stations cabinets and observatories that consisted of objects, video works, and visual material organized in form of, let's see, the oh, I got it. So we see now this material was organized, for example, around tables. Table as a place of social gathering where the documents and photographs were put on. The visual material was presented in the video material was presented in, for example, in the cash machines, which were placed also in some parts of the, because, you know, the whole project was centered around certain themes like state, war, nation, religion, the other, occupation, tradition, manipulation, memory, industries, work, and washing machines. So there was certainly some kind of intention and some kind of composition in all this, but it would be too long to explain all that. It was explained in the 1.5 hour presentation I had, which you can find on the YouTube. So he calls this video material like little monsters. She said monsters which are actually made of monument of historical documents, of photographs, but also of fictional material or of some material taken by artists themselves while they were walking and so on. So there was a lot of these are also some kind of observatories. These were the costumes of the performers which moved through the space and directing the spectators and doing some other things. When it comes to the sound, when it comes to the sound installations, Nicolas Varchausky made sort of like, he put loudspeakers around and organized the sound material in what he calls resonances, explosions, voices. So there were also some real voices from the past which were recorded at one point, original voices. But what was interesting that he took the database of all the people buried in Mirogoj with their dates of birth and death, and transformed them into sounds by means of a very complex algorithm, and by the computer program which he had transported from Seattle. We must know that it was happening like more than 10 years ago, so the technology was not so sophisticated then, but this kind of a usage of technology was really at that time quite revolutionary. I can show you. I always forget to put share screen. So this is, for example, the database. You see the picture?
No, you are not presented now by material. Just you are on the screen.
Again, oh my God. Wait, I'll kill myself. Just a second, I'll try once again because it worked. Yesterday I had a, okay, this is the, just a second. So share screen. Do you see it now?
Yes, it's shown.
Okay. So this is a database which was then transformed into in addition, a performance element was introduced, as I already said, the inclusion of local performers and dancers who fill the space with their bodies in movement, giving in this way an additional live dimension to the event. So I will just quote what was the purpose of such an approach by the artists themselves. The authors approach memory as a conceptual component of their artistic practice, which is based on the idea that remembrance creates a new perception of the past event by delivering it to a new temporality. Or to be more precise, the memory cannot return the past as it was, but it can open new possibilities of the past. Remembrance is like a living being, a sphere which has to be discovered and inhabited each time anew. The history is just a starting point and not the point of arrival. I will show now the way they worked with the visual materials, so you can see how those how the documents and things found in the archives could be transformed digitally into a kind of montage. So, for example, we have here the original documents. Just a second. So these are the original documents, photographs of some sites in the city, things like the shoes, the products of a factory which existed a long time ago in time of socialism, some historical figures, some more contemporary socialist past. This is Tito with the lion. It's the young Otto Köhleja as a soldier. So these are the things that a Croatian audience is familiar with. This is the main square. This is, for example, the moment that the partisans liberated Zagreb and they enter into the city, and so on. I will now show one very short clip of how this material, not all of which was shown, but some of it, is transformed into now. Now it's a moving picture, so it is the biggest challenge for me whether this will work. Do you see the picture?
No, it said that you are screen sharing, but it's not shown. We just hear some sound. Okay, but
impossible. I don't know what happened. Just a second. Screen.